Hello family and friends, and welcome to our channel this morning. Actually, it's this afternoon. Today we're going to talk a little bit about breads. You know, the ones they say should be forbidden. This is further from the truth, y'all. And I am going to go through a little bit of information, and then we are going to the kitchen because I am going to use a few ingredients you would never thought we could. I am learning more about sourdough and how it is good for our digestive system. It has been proven to work very well. It's very good for the gut. It breaks down your flours and all your other resources much slower, so anybody who's diabetic can benefit solely or seriously off of sourdough. However, when you're feeding your sourdough, you have this thing called discard. You know, this stuff. But we don't know what to do with it sometimes. So today I'm going to give you one besides your pancakes, one besides the typicals. I am going to be using this jar of sourdough because we are going to be making today an apple fritter bread that is so delicious, y'all. I had made it and it's amazing. I'm also going to be looking into making some sourdough discard crackers. I love the fact that I like to snack on sourdough crackers with some cheese and maybe some 100% cured from basically Italy salamis, and so charcuterie board styles. So sourdough discard can work for so many different ways than just pancakes and biscuits. This is what we're going to work on here. Before we do, though, I'd like to give you a little bit of information about the grains, why flours or why bread is considered to be taboo these days. There's so many different diets that will eliminate bread, and I'm going to bring you to a different aspect about bread and why it can benefit every family. So y'all, this is what we're going to be doing today, and I hope you're ready to spend some time with me. Okay, y'all, so I am going to share just a bit of information. I do want to get one more thing out so I can show it to you, and then we are going to dive deep into this book right here. Now, y'all, this is actually not a diet, and I'm gonna share this with you. This is not a diet. This is actually very, very informative how these old how our biblical ways can still stand today. The difference is what we did from here to where we're at today, and I am going to show you so much, and I'm looking forward with this. So let me get something right quick, and we're going to sit down and do this together. Okay, y'all, so I am going to read about whole grains. Whole grains, these whole grains. These are grains that I literally mill. And why I started milling my own flour is going to be perfectly explained by reading this in this book, in the apostolistic book. It's called Diet. It's not a diet, y'all. It's just basic information, high information that can benefit us today. And this is one of the reasons I created this channel, so that we can go really in depth on how our foods differ and why we shouldn't be limited. And the one thing that this book does say, there is no restrictions, there is no limitations, y'all. And there isn't. I'm actually able to eat whatever I want, but it's effectively to the point that my digestion has greatly improved. My weight has sustained lower, and I'm losing weight, but slowly, as it should be. I'm more active, more energized, and I am getting more rest than I've ever had in my life. And I'm going to willingly share this with you because I think this would benefit so many. So let's get started. We are talking about grains and why I mill my flour. Y'all, let me try to set this camera up better so it's not fading in and out on you. Now, hopefully that helps. We have rainy day today. I am in the deep south of Mississippi. So I'm going to go ahead and read this to you, and I'm going to explain to you why we have whole grains. Now remember, I told you my husband is a diabetic, and I started milling my flour, and I seen some amazing results from it. And then I decided to purchase this book, and I have another one, the Biblio book also. It gives me some recipes literally from the Bible when it had leavened and unleavened bread, and we're going to get into that aspect too. Let me turn this off so we're not getting disturbed, y'all. Okay, so whole grains is considered the staff of life, and I'm just going to read this part to you, and then I'm going to go into further detail. In biblical times, bread made from whole grains like barley and wheat was a dietary cornerstone. They had this everywhere, every day. I mean, they lived off of bread, literally. Grains were ground by hand on stone mills, mixed with water, sometimes oil or herbs, and baked into flat loaves or small cakes, which actually was like naan bread, pita breads, these sources, flatbreads. Unlike today's refined flours. Now remember what I just said, refined. This is the key that destroyed everything about flour and why bread became taboo. Biblical grains retain the bran, the germ, and the endosperm, offering fiber, nutrients, and energy. This is absolutely true, as I do this today. When I mill my grains, y'all, I get the germ, I get the bran, I get every nutrient and vitamin, just like I explained before. One wheat berry has 44 nutrients and vitamins. The only difference is the moment this is milled, I have up until 2 hours before we start losing nutrients and vitamins. Within 24 hours, if left out, I could lose every bit of it. So I freeze mine if I have any left over from when I'm baking. Freezing it sustains the loss of nutrients and vitamins. So, and keeping that bran is highly important, especially in a diabetic life. Bran, fiber, all of these are extremely beneficial. This is not on the store shelf. Flour, this source, is because it will not last. With the germ, endosperm, and the fiber, it will not be sustainable on your shelf. This is when, literally, like I just said, the nutrients and vitamins after 24 hours even start losing their effects. So, when refined flours came to the shelf, they realized this and thought of a way they figured would be a smarter way to sustain our flours, add synthetic nutrients and vitamins, and create what I call dead flour. Unresponsive to our bodies, we're not even getting the synthetic nutrients and vitamins within that flour, but it's there. And if we are getting any, it's very little of it, truthfully. I get 100%, and this absolutely changed everything about our life. My husband, before he, as a diabetic, if I used anything store-bought that was enriched flour, refined flour, in other words, if it had enriched flour, his blood sugar spiked 300 to 400 just for 1 to 2 slices of bread. It was crazy. I decided to go ahead and do some testing, and I got into wheat berries milling my own. And y'all, it was amazing because this man never reached 140. So we decided to start doing wheat berries and milling our own because it was now a form. The fiber within these wheat berries allowed my husband to digest bread and the flours much slower, creating the fact that his blood sugars don't spike and injure him now. And this gave him a normal life. Again, it goes back to in the Bible where, in a sense, we should not have left. I do mill mine. I do have 2 mills. I have a stone mill and I have a steel mill. Either one of them. You can get hand cranked ones. They range from inexpensive hand cranked on up to electric forms. More and more people are now starting to mill their own flour as we learn more about the flours we are buying versus the flours that we can mill ourselves. Now, we're not having to do it by hand anymore, literally like they did in the Bible. We do have an easier way of milling our grains. Nonetheless, we're still milling. I'll go ahead and continue. Bread was so central to the life of the people that it often stood in for the idea of substance itself. Jesus called himself the bread of life in John 6:35. And when teaching his disciples to pray, he said, "Give us this day our daily bread," in Matthew 6:11. The bread of the apostolistic era was simple, whole, and shared. A far cry from the processed, oversweetened solo meals we often eat today. Incorporating whole grains into the modern apostolistic diet means choosing food in their least refined form: bulgur, farro, barley, whole wheat, and brown rice. It also means slowing down to prepare them, eat them, and recognize them not just as food, but as a daily grace. This really works, y'all. Now, as far as farro is concerned, farro actually, hang on a second, y'all. I'm so sorry. Okay, so farro. Farro is used in Italy a lot. What is it? It's actually an ancient grain. Actually, one of 3 ancient grains. It's called ancient because these are the original grains, wheat grains in the Bible, which was einkorn, spelt, and emmer. In the categories, and I would have to go back and look really carefully, I think einkorn was considered grande or large. Then there was a much smaller, they go from small, medium, large grains. I choose emmer. Emmer, when cooked, is the most amazing nutty flavored farro. What do you do with it? Basically, it can be used for rice replacement. 100% natural grain, just cooked in its natural form. You get every fiber. You get the fiber, the endosperm, you get everything, and it's cooked, and it's much better than any rice that you can put in a dish. You can even use it in, well, if you like chipotles, or if you like your burritos, or if you just like a bowl. Rice is replaced in my family, and I love it like a wild rice in mushroom soup. Add some farro to it. Oh, it is so good. It's got a chewy texture to it, and it's just, I don't know, I think it's just a fun food, but it is so healthy, believe it or not, y'all. And I don't really like to reveal too much of this, but my age, I am 58 years old, and I feel better than I have felt in my entire life. My skin is softer than it's ever been because I started learning more about whole foods. Today, I'm going to show you the possibilities of being able to use these whole foods. Now, I do order from Azure Standard, which I told you, and I have an artesian bread flour. It's an organic. However, it is not like my flour that I mill. Sometimes I will take these flours and do half and half, where I'm at least getting some is better than none, so I mix my grains, the grains that I have. Oh Lord have mercy, I think I have every one there is except for barley. Now, in the Bible, there was those who could afford and those who could not. If you were less fortunate and couldn't afford too much in your wheats, the one main source was barley. Barley was used in every poor community. They still milled their wheat. Barley was still good, but they made a much flatter, denser bread. Versus those who could afford much better, hence the reason we have wheat berries. This one here is a hard white wheat. There's soft white wheat. There's hard red wheat. There's einkorn. That one doesn't have much of a gluten though. The ones that have more gluten are the three that I just spoke of. So those were used for those folks who were able to afford them more, and they had a much better flavored, fluffier bread. The leavening agent was really cool. To know what they used, I literally went to looking as what did they use for leavening, because every year they had to get rid of their leavening during Passover. So I know they didn't have commercial because commercial came about in our time, not biblical time. So what did they use for leavening? To my surprise, it literally was sourdough. Flour, water, and refeeding. It's just flour and water is what they used. And most of the time they made what was called a levain. So it was sourdough starter, and it made perfect sense. Although if they got rid of their starter during the Passover, of course they had to do it again. But can you imagine getting rid of a 1-year-old starter? Y'all, that was discipline. So I found that sourdough is amazing. There is so many benefits, and the fermentation within the sourdough allows you to absorb nutrients and vitamins for any food that you also eat and consume. So sourdough is amazing for your gut. It is also very healthy for your gut to help you digest food much better. And I am learning this today. So we are going to make a nice fritter bread. Basically, you can add a drizzle sweetener on top, but for us, we found that the recipe itself was just pleasant. It's almost like having a nice zucchini bread. However, the sweetener in it is going to be a substitute sugar, because I do have a diabetic, and even the natural sugars I'm putting Granny Smith apples in it, so that's pretty much enough in the naturals. But I'm going to have to use other sweeteners. The added is going to be a substitute. You're welcome to use whatever you want in yours. I will have the recipe in the description area of this video, and you will be able to find the full recipe, and I will slice it in half, basically in parentheses. I will use it for those who are diabetic and watch your sugar intake, how much to use there. It's pretty one in one, but I'll let you know which way you can do this. The sugar glaze uses powdered sugar. There is a swerve powdered sugar, and milk. You can use this as your drizzle if you choose to do so, or if you wanted to, you can make a crumble on top. But these are very simple ingredients. They're not very big or nothing. You're going to need a 9x5 loaf pan, and we're going to have fun in the kitchen, y'all. Each time we're going to learn more and more about how the Mediterranean and the biblical life, how they coincide with each other, basically is all this is. The Mediterranean diet is the original diet that we were meant and created for in the first place. And as we learn more, we start treating our bodies better we start being able to do more than we used to do. This is not a cure-all fix, though. If we have diseases or whatever in our bodies, this is not a way or me of saying this is your cure-all, because honestly, I don't have those answers. But this is a way that maybe we can do some goodness to our bodies, our mental health, our spiritual health, and our physical health. And that's the reason I am doing this, because this is something people won't really step into. Why God leads me here is crazy, because sometimes, y'all, I feel like I'm being set in a den of wolves with this big, beautiful bone in the middle, and I'm supposed to go in there and grab that. I can't do that. But here I am. I am not here to tell you how to eat. I am not here to take anything away from you. I am here just to share with you what I've learned and what helped improve my sleep, my personality. My depressions are gone. My anxieties are very, very few. And so I'm sharing what worked for me, what I had to go back to understand what was going on with my life, what I needed, and what my body needed to prosper better. And you know what? It was really nice to hear a doctor say that the more we keep doing this, we'll probably outlive more people than they see. So that was actually a really good statement in a sense, but I thought, why isn't this spoken of more? And that's why I'm here. This is the calling that I have, and I'm going to share it. And I know many are not going to receive this, and it's okay. I'm just going to reach out to those who really want to know and understand. Can I sleep better? Yes, you absolutely can. Can I reduce this anxiety within me, and can I get peace in my life? Yes, you can. A lot of it is prioritizing some of the things that we take. We're going to get further into that as well. But for now, it also means, do we glorify God by what we eat and drink? So let's go make something delicious. Now this cake, y'all, it's not actually a cake. It is a bread, but like a zucchini bread. It's a dessert bread. I'm fixing to tell y'all, this is really good for fall. It is so delicious. It really is. It's so delicious. You can use this for any fall type of sit down with a cup of coffee and just eat this beautiful piece of bread. Moderize how much of it, y'all, because it is really good. Or you can have it as a dessert for Thanksgiving or any of that. It can even go into Christmas. So I'm excited. So let's just go to the kitchen and let's get cooking, y'all. Okay, y'all. So we are going to do this in sections. Now, this recipe that I am doing, I will not be putting the glaze on. I will add the glaze in the recipe description for you, though, if you choose to do it after your bread is completely cooked. Now, the reason I say that bread isn't taboo, basically it comes to this. It is what's in it that makes the biggest difference. The way I'm doing is I will be using, like I said, I am using Central Millings artisan flour from Missouri Standard. It's an organic based flour of sorts. And I am also adding fresh milled soft white wheat that I milled up and made flour. Does it work? Let me show you, y'all, what fresh milled flour looks like. It is literally flour. But I have everything in here. I have nutrients, I have vitamins, I have bran, I have everything. So that's the difference. It is not the flour, the bread isn't the problem. It's what's in the bread that makes it a problem. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with our filling, because we're going to set this aside. I am using 2 Granny Smith apples. You can use apples of your choice. They're large apples. They were peeled, cored, and chopped. Now at this point, I am going to be adding a 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, or 50 grams. Now for me, I am going to be using a sugar substitute, which you can use one-on-one. If you're using certain ones like erythritol or Elios, y'all, I will tell you, no, these are not natural ingredients. But when it comes to a diabetic, unfortunately, nowadays, these are the only resources we can do. I am actually using sucralose in ours. You can use monk fruit if you want to, but know that whatever sugars, sometimes they will make your finished product a little darker because it crystallizes more. If you are not having to worry about diabetes, any sugar you would like is what you're going to use. You can use honey and maple syrup if you wanted to instead, which are more natural. However, adjust the flavoring to it because you can use too much otherwise. So this is for a 1/4 cup going in the filling. This is not the bread type yet. So this is just our filling. Like I said, I'm using substitute, y'all. So here's my 1/4 cup. I'll seal this off right quick. My container. And I am going to be using a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. This is optional. You do not have to use nutmeg. And you need cinnamon. I like the nutmeg in it because to me it just has this beautiful fall feeling. It's really good. So I encourage you to use it. Let's see, my 1/4, there we are. 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. That's that in there. And we need 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. We're going to mix this together and we're going to set it aside for about 10 minutes until the flavors incorporate with each other. It will create its own juice as well. We're going to be using this whole thing. So I'm just going to mix this up. Like so. And then we're going to set this aside, y'all. Oh, it smells like fall already in here. Just this alone, I'm telling you, I could just eat this just like it is. I love fall, y'all. I do. I just, there's just something about it. It's just, to me, it's comforting. It's not too hot, not too cold. It's just really nice. But I've got a better aspect in life the way I think anyways these days. So maybe that's just part of it. Alright, we're setting that aside. We're going to set up for our bread ingredients next. And in the meantime, I have my oven preset for 350 degrees as it's heating up. So we're going to clean this station off and come back to our bread. Alright, y'all. So the one thing that I have been learning, and a lot of recipes in the Mediterranean are not used by cups. They're literally used by weight. And I will tell you, by the gram weights, I invested into a scale, especially when it came to fresh milling. To me, I found that it's more accurate than our standard measuring cups. So when it comes to our flour, I always weigh it. You're welcome to do it as the recipe says. So what I need right now is 150 grams of all-purpose flour. Now, here is what I will say. Hopefully I won't confuse you. I will be writing this down. There are 2 types of flour used in this recipe. One is all-purpose flour and one is sprouted wheat flour. Or you can add all-purpose flour. So here's what it comes down to. If you are strictly using all-purpose flour because you don't have fresh milled or you don't have the sprouted wheat, use 275 grams of flour of all-purpose. 275. Now I'm going to split this up. I'm not using sprouted because I did not sprout my wheat. I did fresh mill it. So I'm going to use 150 grams of all-purpose, which is going to be my central milling organic flour. that I am going to use. Nope, I take that back. I'm going to use my soft white wheat for this one. This one's going to be 150 grams. Soft white wheat, it has very much less gluten in it than any of the hard wheats. This one's great for baked goods, cookies, breads like these. So this one I used better. I will not pretty much use my hard white wheats for these. So I need 150 grams of soft wheat. Oops, I got too much there. Perfect. There's my 150 grams of soft white wheat. And now I am going to use 125 grams of my central milling. Again, if you're using nothing but all-purpose, if you get the chance to ever want to switch up your flours, y'all, I would encourage you to try this. But and I can understand not everybody can afford it. Trust me, I definitely get that. Do the best you can. If you can order from Azure Standards, the organics really are much better than what you can get from the stores. Okay, so now I'm going to do 125 for my organic flour. I chose to use more of my fresh milled than I do on this artesian flour. Perfect. Now there's the 125. There is my 175 grams of flour mixed. We're taking all of our dry ingredients first, and then we're going to mix our wet ingredients. So here's my 2 things of flours. My next ingredients are going to be a half a cup or 100 grams of granulated sugar. Again, I am using substitute, y'all, so I'm using a half a cup of sucralose, basically. I find that sucralose is easier to bake with. It doesn't make my baked goods super dark in color. It's a 1-to-1. So if my recipe says a half a cup, this works for a half a cup as well. I find it works really well with this. Splenda can be done the same way. Again, I know that none of these are the most perfect, but remember what I said, sometimes we can't get away from everything that is processed. But if we can eliminate as much as possible whole, we just done something better. This is one that I can't get away from. Let's see, now I need 2 teaspoons of baking powder. I am actually using aluminum-free baking powder, and that comes from Rumford's. They have a really good one. Another one that is aluminum-free baking powder is Melody Hills. You can literally order these on Amazon. So I need a teaspoon, 2 teaspoons of baking powder. 1, 2. And I need 1 teaspoon of baking soda. These is basically the leavening to your bread to a flour that does not have much leavening, like my fresh milled. Here's my 1 teaspoon. All right. And then we just need a half a teaspoon of salt. I use Himalayan sea salt. Y'all use whatever you like. And you can use less if you really wanted to. Just a half a teaspoon of this. It goes a long way. Okay. Now I'm going to take my whisk and we're going to whisk all this together. As y'all can see, this seriously, just fresh milled, it's just flour. But this is the best flour we ever put in our body. I do not deprive myself. I did low carb, I did keto, I did a lot of these diets. I do live my lifestyle with Mediterranean now, but it is not a diet. It is literally a lifestyle. and a lifestyle we had many years ago, as you see now. So that's it. I eat my bread. I'm getting ready to do some sourdough bread with y'all too, and we will discuss sourdough. If you are wanting to learn about sourdough, let me know, because we will definitely work on this together. Let me put this aside and we're going to work on the wet ingredients. Okay, y'all, so again we are going to use our scale, because we are going to weigh out 100 grams of our sourdough discard. If you are using active starter, yes, you can definitely use active starter. But if you're using the active starter, you're going to have to add a 1/4 cup of water to it. But if you're just using plain old discard like I am, straight from the fridge, actually, you would use a 1/2 cup or 100 grams. I prefer, again, using weight because it's more accurate. And using this for fresh milled flour, I need to make sure this is accurate so that that flour can absorb all the liquid, or it'll be just too dry. So I need 100 grams of my starter. Or discard, actually. Yeah. I never know when to stop. It seems. There it is right there. Y'all, that just, I have all this jar of starter. I've even dried some for in case of something ever happens. So I still got crackers it is. I like using my starter. I really don't like discarding it. Although I did find mixing it with water, my chickens love this, and it's good for their digestive system as well. I have used this in my compost, which works really well. So there are other ways of using that discard as well. But I choose to want to learn about different ways of baking with it. Alright, so I'm going to put this discard away. I got my 100 grams and we're going to move on to the next. Okay, y'all, so on to the next step. Now we need a 1/4 cup or 60 milliliters of milk. You can use milk of your choice. Yesterday, when I made this bread, I used it with 1/2 and 1/2. Today, I actually want to try what it's going to taste like mixing the sourdough discard with buttermilk. So it's just, I did biscuits and they had an amazing flavor, so I'd like to try it, and that's what I'm going to use. Use a milk of your choice. Just regular whole milk will work just as well. I am just going to take and use buttermilk. Now I'm going to mix these two together right quick and incorporate this sourdough starter into my milk. Now I need a 1/4 cup or 4 tablespoons of melted butter, slightly cooled. This is unsalted because we have salt already in our dry ingredients. I believe in waste not, want not, so I get my ingredients out as much as possible. Now I'm going to incorporate this together. And we need 2 large eggs. Y'all, I am literally using farm fresh eggs from my own chickens that I raise. So I'm going to be adding this. And these girls know how to lay a large egg. And now we're going to incorporate. Look how dark those yolks are. Whew! So pretty. So pretty. Now I'm just going to mix this up really well. Incorporate it all together, and we're just going to add this to our dry ingredients. When we do add it to our dry ingredients, we just want to mix this, y'all, until it is incorporated. We do not want to over mix it. Now I'm getting my dry, going to add it to my wet. Scrape out my bowl. With fresh milled, you want to make sure you get all of the liquid you possibly can get in it. Now I'm just going to mix this just enough to mix it up. And I'm also going to add my apples that we set aside and all of its ingredients in here. Hold on a minute, y'all. I'll be right back. Okay, so here we go. We're just going to mix this. Remember, just mix it all until it's incorporated. You do not want to over mix it, and you want to fold it basically in here. I'm doing it until all of my flour is incorporated. So once it's all incorporated, we'll be right back and I'll show you what this looks like. Alright, y'all, you need a 5 by 10 or 9 by 5, excuse me, inch loaf pan. You want to take and lightly grease your loaf pan so nothing sticks. And then we're going to add our bread mix that we just mixed together, and then we're going to pop it in here. It is going to be a sticky mess. Yes, it is. Now, it did slightly stick to my pan, but I let it cool off some before I pulled it out. You're going to leave it sit for 10 minutes anyways, so I need a better scraper. We'll be right back. Alright, y'all. I cannot for the life of me find any scrapers like this. This is like a very hard plastic. If I ever lose this, I will cry. This is old, and I can never find any more like this. Everything now is this silicone stuff, and personally, they annoy me because they don't, to me, don't get out the ingredients just as well as this one does. So this is my favorite. Alright, clean this off. Now I'm going to take and spread my dough evenly throughout my pan. It's really not that hard to do, y'all. This really doesn't take that much time. It seems like it does during this video, but it takes no time at all to put this together. I do what's called mise en place, get everything done ahead of time mainly, and then I'll just pop it in the oven. Okay, so now I'm going to set my timer. This is going to cook for at least 50 to 60 minutes in 350 degrees. Or until it comes out clean. As you can see, this is almost like having zucchini nut bread. So, set my timer. Yesterday it cooked perfectly at 50 minutes. So, I'm going to set mine for 55. Okay, pop this in the oven, and we will see you back, y'all, when it's finished. Okay, y'all, so here is our bread. Now, mine came out about 13 minutes earlier than what the recipe suggested. I would say at about 45 minutes in, I would test my bread with your toothpick and see if it comes out clean. If it does, pull it out. Sometimes it doesn't take the full 55 minutes or 60 minutes. So check it out yourself. Everybody's ovens are different. But look at this, y'all. How gorgeous this bread is. So we're going to let this sit for 10 minutes, and then we're going to pull it out of our pan and put it on our cooling rack. Okay, y'all, so now after the 10 minutes, we'll take our knife along our edges like so, all the way around. We're going to take it upside down out of our pan, and we're going to finish allowing this to cool on our pan. Now, if you're going to drizzle this, you want to completely cool your bread. If you are fixing to just eat it as is, as we are fixing to taste test this one versus our other one with half and half, you can cut this at any point at this time. You can serve it with some cream cheese on it or some butter. whatever you choose. If we use butter, it's going to be real butter, y'all. So we're going to cut this and we're going to taste test this, and we'll be right back. I wanted to show you right quick too the texture on the inside. Look how beautiful this is. Now this is definitely hot, but y'all, it is gorgeous. Okay, y'all, so we're going to try this, and so far hubby's home from work early due to our weather, and he's tried it, and he said the same thing I did basically. So this one here was made with buttermilk. Absolutely delicious. Hang on a second. Okay, y'all, this is amazing. Using the buttermilk, this is just my opinion. You use what you want to, but this is what we found. We used half and half last time, and even with fresh milled flour can be a bit dense. Adding even different agents to it, it can still be slightly denser because of the bran, the germ, and the endosperm. Those three tend to weigh it down more. Nonetheless, I'd still rather use fresh milled flour. If we were using it from the get-go, we would never know the difference between this air fluffy dead flour versus a fresh milled flour. But regardless, for all of that, here's what we did find. With the half and half, the bread was a bit more, I don't know, I guess drier some, and the fact that it was also just slightly denser. Using buttermilk changed this whole entire texture. Mixing that with sourdough discard made a nice fluffy, moist texture to this. So in my opinion, I think from now on for us, when we make this fritter bread, we are going to actually add buttermilk instead of just any other type of milk. It worked perfect. And this has got the perfect sweetener. We don't have to add a glaze. You're welcome to add the glaze. I'll put the recipe in the description box below for you. But again, just remember now, I used fresh milled. If you have the opportunity in your area to find somebody who mills flour, you might want to get with them and see if you can do a co-op type thing to where you can get some of this flour. Now, Azure Standard, and I will put the link in the description as well, they do tend to have more organic flours. They might not have the full endosperm and all of that because it is shelf stable. However, it will have way more nutrients and part of the fiber to it than what the stores will. They do have, I think, einkorn flour and all of that already milled for you. You won't get the same nutrients as I do, but you will get better than what you can buy at a store. So I will put that link in there for you. I hope you all enjoyed this. I hope you enjoy this bread as much as we do. I think this is going to be our fall favorite this year, and it is absolutely amazing. We now have two, and I'm going to put one in the freezer. So until next time, God bless you, and we love you, and we will see you again. The bread of life.